15 years in trucking really isn't that long of a time. Well, today, 15 years of trucking developed a very famous personality and a very electrifying conversation coming up on. From the trenches of trucking experience and a passionate heavyweight in the Truth in Broadcasting Network. Welcome to Truckin' City News Frontline Podcast, hosted by the most opinionated broadcaster on YouTube, Boss Man.
Howdy ho, and so much for a smooth entry. Witness the front line of progress. The American trucker. We're being lied to every minute of every day by every mainstream media outlet in the country. Shortage lies, cameras that spy, rates you can't predict, everything under the sun. The corporate elite versus the working men and women. Enter the Truth in Broadcasting Network. And me. I'm Boss Man, your savior and chief. The one who's not afraid to call out the BS. Hosting the only call-in show where you get a voice. Hand-selected stories where they lack, but we got your back. Comment in the chat to the right. Let us know you're ready to join the fight. Sound off by calling our studio lines. 860-785-3547. 860-785-3547. We host these live events twice a week. Today, Saturday, and on Wednesday. I currently have a updated show in development right now. You formerly know it as Media Matters. But I'm redesigning it. I'm making it better. So what you see right here on this part of your screen says Media Matters. The next time Frontline airs, the new show name will be there. The whole theme will be changed. We aim to make the show better, to make you better. So, without too much fanfare or procrastination, I'm going to let you guys know I scan a lot of news sites. I look at and watch a lot of other trucking channels. One such channel caught my interest this week, and I'm hoping this individual that hosts this channel is in fact in the audience today. Name of the channel, you might want to check him out. It's Truckin' Champions. Him and I had a dialogue back and forth about one of his videos. I take exception to anyone that posts videos or any information online that goes with the narrative of the trucking shortage. Kind of like last week's show. Look it up if you're interested. So I took issue with this fellow. Looking back, I mean, I take issue with anybody that seems like, to me, they're speaking an untrained thought and they're not speaking with enough experience. Looking at the man, actually listening to him, he said he'd only been in trucking a short time. So I kind of took it for granted that he really had a junior opinion about what he was talking about. And I failed to take into consideration the fact that, well, I should do my homework before I run off at the mouth. I made a few important points to him, which I'm sure he understood, and I worded it very eloquently. there's a few other trucking channels out there that know what I mean when I say I word things eloquently. I do have a way with words, and I do not hold back on my opinion. You, the audience, are beginning to understand that because I do comment in chat. Tell me if you disagree with what I'm about to say, but I think I do a very good job at laying out the facts, having done my research, having thought things through. And at least on this channel anyway, I try to be neutral and I try to take the middle road instead of the high road or the low road. But when I talk to other creators and I talk to other truckers on YouTube, I tend to take one side or the other. I don't normally stray from that. I'm usually quite firm. So, dude, if you're actually in the audience and you're watching me, I want to apologize for the fact that I really did get kind of harsh. And I really did spout off an opinion that I probably should have taken more time to think about. You know what? I'm a broadcaster. I'm boss man. I'm here. I'm present. I'm accounted for. But I'm not perfect. And I will be man enough to tell you and everyone in the audience that very fact. Okay. I run this platform with one philosophy in mind, and that's that I do know what I'm talking about. And for those things, I am certain. Of those that I'm not, I'm going to rely on you. You help me help you. That's the way this works. And by that, what I mean is I don't know it all. I never said I did, never claimed to. But I run this platform to not only learn from you, but also to teach you as well. News is my forte. I love gathering facts and information, and I love putting it in a way with words that make sense to you, that actually makes you feel like you're one of the crowd. And that's a different thing that most people in media today aren't capable of, which is why I host this show, which is why I feel so passionate about its success. So once again, if you've got anything to add, let's take note in the comments. Let's get on the phones. Let's start ringing these phones, making sense, making conversation. 860-785-3547. We are running the best debate show on YouTube. But be warned, turn down your player, mute YouTube before dialing the number. If you hear that in the background and then hear me, it'll confuse you and create feedback on your experience here with me today. So let me just set one more thing straight, and that's it. If you're joining us on YouTube, please go down below, hit the like button, become a subscriber to Truckin City Media. I promise you, you will not regret it. I have guests in the house. I encourage you to go to their channels respectively if you haven't already. Like their channel or like their broadcast, because it's being streamed with Driving with John, and become a subscriber to him as well. You'll also see this on Grumpy Old Truckers. Those are the two guests we have with us in the house. I'd like to bring them up before our trucking history segment and welcome them in and see if we can't set the mood. So let's welcome the grumpiest old codger in this side of Oklahoma and see how he's doing. Good morning to you, Frank.
Good morning, boss man.
How's life in Oklahoma?
Beautiful weather, right? Beautiful weather.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Good to hear. So what do you think overall of the job I'm doing so far as host, neutral, compared to the mainstream media? What's your thoughts? I'm curious.
Well, I'm going to tell you straight up. So far, so good. I like your show. That's one reason why I want to be a part of it. It's why I come in every week unless I'm ill or something's come up. And you bring out good points, and like you said, when you first began, they may not all be accurate 100%. You never claim to be 100% accurate. That's why you have the show, because you want to hear other people say also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you had one thing to levy criticism on for me in this channel and the way I do things, what would that one thing be? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but got to be fair.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I haven't seen really anything wrong with what you're doing. You seem to be doing a great job, and I wouldn't change much of anything. I mean, because if you change it, you may mess everything up. And you know, the old saying is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
This is very true. This is very true. Well, I appreciate that honesty. I'm going to bring in our other special guest for today, simulcasting on his channel, the good old emote man himself, driving with John. How you doing, John?
Doing very well. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, and we still got that little bit of feedback, so it's not very loud, but it's there, it's present. So I'll ask the guests to be patient with us. We'll work on it as we go by.
Well, I just connected my whole sound system. This is just off of my phone now, so I don't know what that was.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Who knows? Same question to you. What do you think of the experience so far?
I think it's going well. I mean, I wouldn't have you simulcast on my channel if I didn't think it was great content that was high quality, that was well thought out. I like the idea that you allow other people to have other opinions and that you're willing to openly talk about it without arguing about it. Because honestly, that's what our country needs, not just in trucking, but overall. We need to talk about things that we might not agree on, but in a way that can, possibly change minds or just agree to disagree. But it's a much better way to handle things than be argumentative all the time.
Just like our first commenter. Is trucking dead? Yes, it is, he says. I don't mind putting those kind of comments up because you know what? Everybody is entitled to their opinion. And opinions are what make discourse, and discourse is what makes progress. So let me ask you a question number 2, John. If you had a criticism of anything about my show or anything that you think needs to be changed, what would that be?
See, I thought you were going to ask me if trucking was dead. I was going to say, no, it's not dead, but it is on the table with some life support with some paddles ready. I'm just saying. Your show. Let me see. I think it's good. I like the history segment. I like lately you've been doing 2 or 3 stories a show, which is I think really good because sometimes stories aren't what we think they are until we get on here and start talking about them, and other times stories that we don't think are that much will totally take off. So I kind of agree with Frank. If you change it, then you could be doing more damage than good. If you're in the audience and you think you want to see something, put it in the comment section. I mean, I know Steve is very flexible and he likes to please people. So there you go.
Yeah. I was actually going to get to that, so I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, I mean, comments and phone calls and also emails, because the one thing I did not put up was the email. If you guys have an idea for a story that in any way you think should be aired on this channel, send us that story link and your thoughts on that story to thatstruckinnews@outlook.com. That's truckinnews@outlook.com, and we will do our best to make sure that that story gets here on this channel. And if you want, I'll keep you anonymous, or I'll bring you in and have a conversation with you as well. I mean, those are just, some ideas and options that I have, and I'm just trying to get feedback from you, the viewer. Because right now I'm flying blind. I see analytics, I see ideas. I'm doing what I think you would like to see. And I'm waiting on analytics to tell me if I'm right. But to me, it's a quicker process if you tell me directly, and we're all better for it. So right there, you've got 3 options and 3 ways of doing things. So let's look at a couple of other comments here. Tolga is in the house. He says, "Oi, they're legends." Thank you much, my friend. I appreciate that. Somebody I haven't seen before, T. Sampley. Dude knows how to drag out a video, 10 minutes of talking about himself, and the next 10 minutes are other people talking about. No, what I'm trying to do is give you guys a better idea of what this show's about. I know you've seen quite a few shows. You know my rhythm. But I thought starting today's show, it would be a benefit to you to get the real authentic me. Because I can sit here and emulate all the great broadcasters. I can sit here and bring out story after story after story. But if I don't take the time to communicate to you what my mission is and my thoughts are, how are you ever going to trust me? So believe me, T. Sampley, I really respect that question, that point, that comment. Thank you. I'm not intentionally drawing this out, but I'm doing it with a purpose. But I thank you for that information. You're having an echo. That's from John. We're figuring that out, dear girl. I appreciate it. That's my wife with feedback on the audio. But thank you on that. We're working through that. Anyway, so having said all that, I would like to get
She's saying there's an echo when you speak.
Yeah, that's because it's coming through you. I'll prove my point here just a second. Watch. As of right now, we have no echo in the audio because I put John backstage. Now, I bring you back up. The echo is in your sound system. So, if you'd like to take a few minutes, go backstage while I go through the trucking history segment. We'll come back.
I have echo cancellation on and everything.
Yeah, I don't know. You can mess with it and see. I'll give you a few minutes. Let me get to my first segment, and we'll come back to this.
It's that blooming apple.
Yeah, right. We'll be back with you guys in a minute. And now for Truckin history. Get rid of the banner. Today, a journey of a man whose vision has shaped the world of cinema in ways few could imagine. In the mid-'70s, a young man found himself behind the wheel of a big rig, driving through the expansive landscapes of North America, fresh out of a failed marriage, grappling with the uncertainty of his future. He took up truck driving to pay bills. It was a far cry from the glamorous life of a filmmaker, which is what he was aspiring to be, but the long hauls and the long time behind the wheel gave his imagination a chance to flourish. As the miles rolled by and the hum of the engines filled the cabin, this man's mind was free to wander. The vastness of the open road became his canvas, the place where he could conjure up scenes of distant planets, sunken ships. Each stretch of highway was a storyboard for a future film, each rest stop a moment to jot down ideas that would one day captivate millions. One fateful night, parked under a canopy of the stars, he had a dream, a vision of a nuclear explosion viewed in slow motion just came to him. That dream would become the seed for a future film that would catapult him into stardom. The relentless drive of a cyborg in pursuit of its largest target mirrored the unyielding determination he himself felt as he navigated his own path through the challenges of life and a career trying to be a filmmaker. In 1984, the world was introduced to his film from the mind of a man who once gazed out the cab window of a truck, dreaming of more than just the open road. The rest, as they say, is history. So the next time you marvel at an epic film of lost worlds and sunken ships, remember it all began with a trucker, a dream, and a stretch of endless highway. You know him as the mastermind behind blockbuster films like Terminator, Titanic, and Avatar. You know him as director James Cameron. That is a true story. And now you know the rest of the Truckin' story. My friends, I love doing research on items like this. It tickles my fancy. Because you get to learn something about history of the industry that you never knew before. And believe me, I didn't know it before I started looking all these facts up.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. What do you think about that one, John? Did you like that one, or did you know James Cameron was a truck driver?
Well, I did make a video about it about 2 months ago. Famous truck drivers from the past. Changed Cameron.
Was he
Karl
was he actually in
Malone.
that?
Yes, he
What?
was actually in that.
Shows you I didn't really pay attention to that.
Oops.
I didn't pay attention.
So since you went ahead and did that, I might, go check out the 5, not 1,
Go
5
ahead.
famous truck drivers. So go check it out.
Evil segue, I might add. I didn't do that on purpose either. What about you, Frank? Did you know, or are you going to claim you watched his video? Come on, come on.
Actually, yes, I did watch his video, and I don't remember anything about James being in there. I do remember some other stars because I mentioned one of them, which was Elvis Presley. He's like, he's in there. I'd already mentioned him.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
okay, fine, be that way.
That was an option, but I wasn't going to go there. I just like because I've done a couple of videos on Elvis too, so I decided against that one.
He's the director of 2 of the biggest films that have ever been shot in history. So,
Yeah.
With
Well, the Titanic being one, and
Avatar
being the other.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think Terminator was too small of a production either. I mean, that was probably one of his first ones, but it was still a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it didn't rate near what Avatar did or Titanic.
No, not at all. Comment there in the chat, guys. Let us know if you like any and all 3 of those films. We'd certainly be interested to know that. Same play. You should watch more of his show before leaving a comment that points out you've never been here before. Look, dude, I appreciate the defense, but all comments, as I opened the show with, all comments are welcome. Criticism and accolades. I don't have a bad thing to say about any of that, because with that being said, I intend to honor the oath of what I claim is my benchmark, the truth in broadcasting. I cannot be truth in broadcasting if I only accept one side. In that case, I'm not truth in broadcasting. I'm Anderson Cooper. Sorry, I think he's too ugly. I don't like him. Anyway, that being said, I don't know. What other films did he do? I know he's done more than just those 3. I mean, comment down. Come on, fill the comments up. Give me something to go on here.
I'm not good with movies or actors, so I couldn't tell you.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you got that right.
No. Anyway,
He didn't even know what a Trekkie was. Shame
yeah,
on
I was
you.
gonna say, yeah.
I didn't know
right?
what was.
A Trekkie?
See?
You don't know what a Trekkie is, John?
Is that someone that runs around a trek?
No, Star Trek. Star Trek. Beat me up, Scotty.
Oh.
Yeah. You
I
go
guess
ahead. You go ahead and go with Scotty. See where that gets you.
I know where John's been left. He's been left in the black hole somewhere.
Yeah. Yep.
He got
There's
lost.
a sci-fi movie about that.
No, when
too,
I
I'm
was
sure.
a kid, I was forced to go outside and play. I didn't get time to watch shows inside. So I was never really a TV, that kind of TV person. I'm more of a sitcom, laugh your butt off type of person. So
Right.
that's way too. The sci-fi stuff is way too out there for me. Sorry.
Very true. Very true.
I'm not, and this is not going to be a popular opinion, but I'm not even a Star Wars fan. So.
Oh, no way.
In a sense, I can kind of relate to why you say that, because I mean, honestly, since I've started creating content here and running the show, I haven't watched TV in months.
Yeah.
I mean, I know of, all the Star Trek, Star Wars kind of stuff and Mandalorian and all that, but I haven't seen anything. I'm like, every waking moment, I'm immersed in making content or something related to it. So I don't have time, much as I'd like to, but I go watching movies and this stuffers. I refuse to do that. I got to be too disciplined. Anyway, last week we talked about, not last week, but on Wednesday we talked about renewable fuels and all that. We had quite a healthy conversation backstage. Do you guys remember any of that?
A little bit
I know,
of it,
John,
yeah.
you cut out a little early because you had things going on, but you might remember some of this. Because we had 2 guests in addition to you that were chatting up something fierce about owner operators and renewable fuels and stuff. And there was a particular point, and if maybe Midlife or Jackknife are, watching, maybe they can kind of remind me what that particular point was. One of them said something about, operating a truck or being an owner operator, something along the lines of, what it's like, or showing new guys or something. I forget.
It was actually Jackknife and Fate is who we had on with us.
Oh yeah, I remember him too. Yeah,
Midlife wasn't able to join, I don't believe.
Well, yeah, you're right. He didn't. But I know we had a full panel.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm bringing it up because I'm hoping somebody can remember basically the line of discussion that we were having, because it really interested me at the time, and I didn't write it down or jot it down.
It would be wonderful if Midlife was watching, because this is a topic that he likes to get in on. So yes, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. Well, one of the thoughts behind the conversation is, because he watched last Wednesdays, I think, and he would have some positive stuff to say, not only about today's topic, but last week's topic as well. So I know, I'm kind of thinking of him in a way, but I know that Fate and Jackknife got into a back and forth, and I thought that would be very good topic information for a discussion today.
Right. Yeah, Jackknife joined us on Wednesday's show, and Fate and Midlife were on last Saturday's show with us.
Right. Yeah.
Fate was also on Wednesdays too, but yeah.
Right.
I said that.
Tolga says, I love Star Wars
or
any sci-fi artworks, but I'm not dying to see them constantly for sure. They're just super cool. Amen. Yes, I know they are, and very expensive too. Very expensive. I learned some of these sets that they build are in the millions just for the Star Trek episodes. I can't speak for Star Wars because I do a lot of reading and research, but I'll tell you what, I would not like to be the man paying those bills. Woo-hoo. They got to make bank, though. They certainly do.
Sefer, I proved you wrong on one thing, which is the NC 1701 A is not the original one.
Go ahead. You can do it too, right there.
Yeah, boss man, I knew that.
Moving on to story 2. Cutting your butt off real quick. All right, yeah. Story number 2 comes to us from Freightwaves. They've recently had an opportunity to publish an article on Biden's electric truck efforts. They recently had a hearing in Capitol Hill discussing the administration's push for electric trucks and the challenges of meeting the zero emissions mandates. The focus was on the difficulty of upgrading the electric grid to support these trucks. Nick, and if I'm butchering the name, please forgive me, Nigro, it's Nigro, that's the spelling of his name. I'm not butchering it, hopefully. Said the focus is optimistic. Well, this gentleman from Atlas Public Policy says he's optimistic about meeting the zero emission standards for 2027, citing major truck manufacturers' commitments to getting these vehicles by 2040. However, issues like infrastructure, user acceptance, and the long process of upgrading facilities were highlighted as significant barriers. Pitt, Ohio's Taki Garakis. I'm gonna butcher the name. Names I'm lousy at. Anyway, he shared challenges with power upgrades and electric truck maintenance, emphasizing concerns about parking and charging logistics. Lady from Love's Travel Stops was also part of this. Said her name is Kim Okafor. You mentioned that incentives are crucial for investor participation in building the necessary grid infrastructure. Now, when it comes to truck stops, when we take our breaks, most of us spend the most time there. So these manufacturers of these electric trucks are feeling as if that's the perfect place to put these chargers. But that's not always going to be the case. And there's a lot of people out there that are challenging the idea. Number one, we don't have enough parking as it is. You add electric trucks to the matter, and the lack of infrastructure, and you've got a recipe for disaster. Hence the reason I made the thumbnail. All you've got to do is unplug and everything's done. One power grid failure, one issue, you can't move your supply chain. All right. So if anyone in the audience is in any way for electrification, put it in the comments. Call our studio line. I want you to convince me that I'm crazy by saying we need an extended time frame and we need time to work all this out. 2040 is way too soon. I'm thinking 2050. I'm thinking 2060. And I think we need to leave diesel standard where it is. I think I've said that in previous shows. I think we need time to insert technology, infrastructure, processes, training, and everything else associated with trying to introduce something as new as the idea of zero emissions. Yeah, I see you want to clean the air. You want to make things better. You want to help the grid. You want to help the people. You want to boost the economy. Great. All those things are admirable. But if you do it at the cost of an industry that supplies your food, your plates, your tissues, your butt wipe, your everything, you're cutting your nose off to spite your face. So considering, here's the main debate question. Considering the substantial infrastructure and operational challenges that the Biden timeline has put for zero emissions truck, do you think it's realistic, or does it need a significant adjustment, as I've mentioned, to make sense out of this entire debacle they call zero emissions? What say you, John?
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you're shooting at a dartboard at night, and you can't see it, and you don't know what you're aiming at. Because here's the problem. As Toga's pointing out in the comments right now, as I speak, he kind of took my wind out of my sails on this one. We don't even have the supplies it would take to make enough electric vehicles to get rid of, to make that the standard. We don't have the supplies for it. We don't have the minerals that are needed. We don't have enough of that yet to even make that possible. But who am I to point that out? You know what I mean? I'm just a trucker. So.
And yet at the same time, we push an agenda. We know full well, and by we, I don't mean we as a trucking industry. I say we as a country. We push this agenda as if we're just supposed to magically create relationships, resources, money. You see, these are three crucial things we've got a huge shortage of right now. Okay. Number one, we need better relationships with foreign countries that have an excess of these types of minerals. We have enough of the minerals to make our cell phones, our circuit boards, all that. We could use more, but because we have a finite supply of this, we have to rely on other countries. Now, what's the problem? The problem is, number one, we have a failing relationship because of bad foreign policy, that we can't exactly rely on these other resources to supply us with enough, much less the rest of the world. Then you add to it the fact that these other resources are questionable at best. I think part of the conversation we had last week, Frank, you can tell me I'm right or wrong, is that we are relying for certain minerals that we use to make these circuit boards. I think Fate pointed out these minerals and the procurement processes they're using to get them are using processes I don't want to describe for fear of demonetizing poor John here, but it's a bad process. It is one I would not put my worst enemy through. And we're supposed to rely on these people to give us more of the cobalt, the zinc, the copper, and all the things we need to make all these batteries and circuit boards.
After butchering that last guy's name, I don't think monetization matters anymore.
Good point. Yeah. But, So I mean,
Don't repeat
relationships.
it.
No, relationships are a major part of it. And then the third thing is economy. I mean, does anybody actually, Capitol Hill media, any of you, do you realize exactly what you're asking the average American household to give up? I mean, because you're not talking about just throw a few dollars at a problem and fix it. We're talking about not millions, not billions, trillions with a T. And we're not talking single digits. We're not talking doubles. We're talking triples. Okay? That's the money you got to throw at the upgrade of the electric grid. That's just getting that started. Then you've got all the money of subsidies to get these manufacturers cranking out all the batteries and the trucks and everything else to replace the diesel you want off the road. So, I mean, trillions, bad relations, and resources. I can think of those three main reasons right there why Biden's got to go. That's just putting it mildly. Fun fact Tolga puts up, if we could succeed in making all the vehicles electric, this time we're going to need 3 times more electricity infrastructure to handle all. Thank you. And I was just about to get to that. He's like reading our minds out of here. You sneaking a look at my program? No, seriously, though. I mean, that's, let's say you get the infrastructure settled and everybody's able to, quote, hook up. Yeah, I mean, I think it was Jackknife last week that made the point is some people are charging their Teslas with diesel generators. How stupid is that? But think about the irony. But think about the irony in that statement, okay? In order to power our electric grid currently, we still rely on coal-fired plants. They haven't shut them all down. And nuclear is too hot, for lack of a better word. You can use so many of them, but you've got to limit their space and their allocation and where they're. So that's not an answer either.
Actually, nuclear is the way to go. It just has a bad cloud over it. With the newest technology that we have, it's become a much better, much cleaner, much more sustainable energy. But everybody's afraid to talk about it because what's happened in the past. But that is
because
the
that old
avenue to
NIMBY
go.
argument.
That is the avenue to go if you want to make an infrastructure to make it electric, is to build nuclear power plants. I'm telling you.
Raise your hand in the audience if you're willing to have a nuclear power plant in your back freaking yard.
I used to live 2 miles from 3 Mile Island.
But see, most people don't want that.
I live about,
and there's nothing wrong with me, so I don't know what they were talking about.
Yeah. I live probably about a little over 200 miles, from one. It's over in Arkansas. And I already did research. If something did go wrong and it had a meltdown, it would affect us all over here. That's how far it travels.
Yeah.
We may get the latter part of it, but it's just still, I'm not for nuclear. We around here in Oklahoma have our water power generators, plus we have coal.
Yeah. Any one nuclear disaster, and I don't mean disaster as in boom explosion. What I'm talking about is any one nuclear disaster, like a rod gets stuck or a system fails and they can't extract the rods and stop the chain reaction. They've got all these safety procedures in, but you know what? Procedures are only as good as the people monitoring them. Mistakes do happen. Hello, Chernobyl. So I mean, it does.
But that
happen.
was so many years ago. The newer technology. If you actually, I fell in this rabbit hole one time. If you look into the newer technology, all the problems of the past are actually solved already, and that would be the solution.
Are you still affected by that rabbit hole?
If you if you look into it, you'll find out that is actually the only true course forward to get off of fossil fuels. It is.
Well,
there is no other way to sustain the infrastructure.
All right.
Well, here's my thought on that. My thought on that nuclear stuff, though, is the fact that once those rods are pulled out and they're no longer in use, they stay active with nuclear radiation for more than 30 years, and they bury those things in the ground to get rid of it, which is not good either. Even though we do have a lot of radiation already in our ground, putting more in it's not helping.
Yeah, but see, if you plant tomatoes on there, you get bigger tomatoes. So there's more food you can feed people. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, you get bigger everything.
You're entering the twilight zone, Frank. This is a discussion. People are paid big bucks not to disclose this information. So truth is, we'll never know 90% of what happens to spent uranium rods. And frankly, I don't care, because you know what? If I knew the truth, I'd probably puke. Or really, I mean, they do things with these what they call safety assets. We are better off not knowing. You know, but more to the point I made earlier, I mean, you're right, John. The way to go is nuclear. But the problem you have is convincing the public of what you just said be true, and convincing them that they need to let go of this NIMBY argument and accept, okay, I have a nuclear power plant 5 miles away from me. I have another one 15 miles down the road. I have another one over here. And we start seeing these plants pop up like candy in order to power this grid and burn up everybody's house or whatever happens. But, you know, you get the point. We're going to need so much of this in order to execute on the power demand necessary to even charge these damn vehicles. Because not only you got semis, you got cars, and everybody else has got to give up their gasoline or internal combustion engine.
You'd be amazed what people would. You'd be amazed what people would be willing to do if it cost them less. Just saying.
Well, I don't see many people jumping in the comments saying, I want a nuclear generator.
I don't see many there saying, I think it's a horrible idea either.
Yeah, right?
I have a perfect idea.
What?
Why don't we just build a Mr. Fusion? Problem solved.
Goodbye, Frank.
What the heck is a Mr. Fusion?
I'm playing with you. What the heck are you talking about?
Well,
come on. You never watched Back to the Future?
Let me get my DeLorean with my flux capacitor, and I'll let you know.
There we go. At least John, and he's not a sci-fi.
Yeah.
Come on.
No. Back to the Future isn't sci-fi. That's just good movie.
Well, yeah.
It's good movie, yes, but it's sci-fi.
Yeah. Tolga says, don't get me wrong, by the way, I would love to see it as a reality, but I'm realistic and I won't buy all the financial hypes as facts. Otherwise, it would be excellent for sure. Not sure the direction you're traveling with that one, but I'll take that as I agree with you because you put the 100%. But yeah. I mean, honestly, I do think, and in order to Tolga's point, I do think that in order to execute on this brainchild of an idea that this damn administration is trying to execute on, there's more money in it than we have. You could talk all the positives about nuclear versus coal and all the positives about cleaning up the air, okay? Before you even begin that discussion, I defer to last week's conversation where I said we still have room, technologically speaking, to perfect the ICE engine and the emissions left out the back tailpipe. We still have a lot of room to play with. And we still have, I think the numbers were, remind me if I'm wrong, 67.3. I mean, we were, talking about the numbers of, amounts or difference in impact of performance of renewables versus regular diesel, I think, if I recall correctly. If you're looking for good information or fact checking me, check last Wednesday's front lines. But that being said, we still have time, I think, to perfect the art of reducing emissions even more. Why go the route of pushing 2040 like it's a necessity? What do you think,
we may wind up reducing it somewhat, which is good, yes. But one way or the other, it's still going to be there. I don't care what they do, how they do it. We're still going to have a carbon footprint of some sort. That's all there is to it.
I mean, even if everybody's all electric, there's still going to be a carbon footprint. Face it. I mean, because you know what, the U.S. may do it, but what about China? What
Yeah.
about Indonesia?
Well,
What
not only
about
that,
Malaysia?
but
What about
the
Chile?
carbon,
What about, you know,
not only
all
that,
these
just the carbon
major, all these
footprint. Sorry,
is what?
not only that, but the carbon footprint to make an electric vehicle is huge. So,
Yeah, yeah,
so you may have a zero emissions vehicle, but the carbon footprint was still huge. So,
Well,
exactly.
you know, just like you were bringing up there, John. Right now, currently, yes, they are making big equipment that is electrified, but I mean, how much are they going to use it before the battery poops out and have to charge that blooming thing? It's not
Yep.
100% guaranteed. Right now, as it is, we're using diesel powered engines that power electric, just like trains, to power these big earth movers to
Mhm.
actually provide all this material that we need.
Yep.
And in a manner and as fast as they're needing it too. You get these electric ones and they start using electric ones, they're going to have a backup one. So one's charging while the other one's being used. So, you know, it's really, really touch and go right there. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. So here's an interesting thought, and this is just something I brought up doing research and looking at different sides of this argument. Typically, when you talk about a dire need or disaster or some big event that, you know, is, quote, all hands on deck, you know, typically you get the government and private enterprise working hand in hand, figuring out solutions. So now, in terms of this, instead of going whole hog on this date like it's a freaking prom date, what can the two do differently to address the obvious elephant in the room, which is infrastructure? I mean, think about it. Right now, it doesn't seem to me like there's a whole lot of attention being paid to running more lines, putting in charging stations. There's stuff happening, but as I pointed out earlier, the resources and relationships are a problem. So, I mean, you have other companies involved, like, you know, the one that Midlife mentioned that's not out of business. The one company making semis, not Tesla, but there's another one. Nikola, right? They're making deals with, I think it's Peterbilt. I think they're trying to, you know, get their sales in line with that. You know, so you know, there's two companies right there, and the government's funding it to a small extent. They're subsidizing part of it. You know, so look at the options with infrastructure. I mean, I'm surprised people haven't thought about that. What do you think about that one, John?
I wasn't sure who you were talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We've covered this until it's almost not, you know, to the nauseum.
Well, that's why I try to cover it from different angles. I mean, because I
think the infrastructure, though, it's not there, and it's not going to be there. And like I said, the only real solution, because after our last one, I put some brain cells to work. You know, I don't have many of them, but I put them to work. And the only real solution would be to go nuclear, and you know, that would be the only way you'd have an infrastructure for electric trucks. It's just not possible otherwise.
Well, if the government looked at private enterprise a little bit more and got them more involved, do you think it would even change things? I mean, honestly, I mean, we're looking at such deep numbers. Do you think it would even make a difference?
Frank, you take that one.
Well, like I said on Wednesday's show, I believe it was, or it might have been backstage. I'm not sure. But the way I look at it is, if our government, yes, they are putting forward somewhat of money, but if they'd quit spending the majority of the money on backing up wars or helping out other countries so much and focus more on this stuff here in the United States and worry more about our country itself, I think it may take off pretty good. But the more money they're pushing out on these other countries, it's kind of slowing the process down to where it's just going to make it more of a headache than anything. And by the way, whoever painted that stupid Tesla that you got on your B-roll, they need to be fired.
I want to
Yeah.
point out down in the comment section, there's a guy named G-Way. He does heavy haul. Dude, I love his truck, by the way. But I'm curious
Nice.
what his thoughts, how electric, could possibly ever work in a heavy haul situation. Because, you got to realize those heavy haul guys, they're not hauling 80,000 pounds. They're hauling 100,000.
Mm,
And
or
sometimes they're
more.
way overload. Sometimes
Yes.
it's,
Well, they have to
I'm
because
just,
of the weight. The weight of the equipment itself is different
yeah.
than a standard rig.
Yeah, I'm
So
just curious. Like, I think we got his answer right there.
yeah,
No,
there you go.
I'm just like, because they always talk about trucking as the door dummies, the reapers, all those, but they don't ever consider like the heavy haul guys, the very niche truck drivers that there are out there that electric honestly could never work for.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
wouldn't have the power it would take to do what you need to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Thank
right
you for the
now.
inspiration, Tolga. I appreciate that. Leave a like. If you guys wouldn't mind, go down below, whether it's on John's channel or mine. Go ahead and leave a like.
Or mine. Don't forget about the grumpy trucker.
Dude, whose show is it? I do remember all my guests. Thank you. Anyway,
Can I take this
that,
off real?
don't
Can
subscribe
I,
to him.
can I take this off
Go,
reels just for 2 seconds?
go ahead, John.
Since you guys like sci-fi so much, let's switch it up a little bit. Do you have a favorite superhero?
Superhero?
I have a reason for asking.
Favorite superhero.
Like Superman, Batman, Incredible Hulk, so on and so forth.
I'm going with Christopher Reeve, Superman.
Superman, okay.
Well, I wasn't
Yep.
going to go with a specific actor. I mean, because there have been so many that played Dean Cain, Christopher Reeves.
Well, I'm not saying a particular actor, but the reason why I ask.
Wolverine seems to stick out with me because I like his persona and his character. So,
well, the reason why I ask is because mine's always been the Incredible Hulk, and if you know G-Way's channel, he's got the Incredible Hulk on the side of a green truck, and it's just the most epic truck I've ever seen. So if you ever see that truck, make sure you give that guy
I've freaking seen that truck. I think I've freaking seen that truck.
He also works for Landstar like you.
Rig. Does he? That's probably why I've seen it. And I think I know where I've seen it. Dude, you got to tell me if you've been down to the Orientation Center in Jacksonville in the last year, I've probably seen your truck down there. So let me know if I'm right. But yeah, because I was in there at one point doing a switch around for another guy's truck. So I wound up spending the night there. So I'm not sure, but I think I saw his truck down there. Anyway, he'll let me know in the comments there in a minute, but it is. It's a badass truck. I mean, look, nice wrap. That's all I got to say. That's what I said when I first saw it. I was like, wow.
Oh, he said, yeah, he was there.
He says, yes. Good. Well, then I know exactly who you're talking about then. I know. I don't remember seeing him personally, but I saw the truck. So
yeah, he's got a good channel.
Small world. I will definitely check him out. Now, he's already got a wrench. He must be on your channel. So, all right.
Yeah.
Anyway. TJ, sup Tolga, how are you? That's another fella, must be on your channel. Everybody's talking to each other.
I don't know TJ. TJ Bull of the Woods.
What I should try to
I've never seen that one before.
Well, you're accomplishing a lot if you're watching this show. So right there, give yourself a pat on the back, my friend.
That's right. That's right.
There you go. And all right, one more question I had, if I can go the right direction here. Comparisons. Let's think about this. What successful examples of early adaptation in other sectors of countries can we look up to for inspirations and strategies? Okay, because we're not the only country tasked with cleaning up our carbon footprint. Think about it. Nearly 8% of new cars sold in Norway are currently electric. Tax breaks, free parking, and access to bus lanes for EV owners is another thing. In China, they've electrified their entire public bus fleet. They've got over 16,000 electric buses in operation in the city of Shenzhen. Don't ask me. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it, probably butchering that like I did everybody else's, through a combination of government subsidies, partnerships with manufacturers. I don't see any of that going on here. I don't see anything even close to Norway or China going on here. So my question then is, how many of you think they're really serious about this? To me, it sounds like a money grab. It really does. Where the administration is concerned, it's just a money grab. Because and I think Jackknife made mention of this, or maybe it was Fate last week. Put your money where your mouth is. That's what was clearly said. And I want to blame Fate for that one, because I think he put that eloquently. Put your money where your mouth is. If you want everybody to do by 2040 what you say, put up or shut up. Stop sitting up there at Capitol Hill squawking about this, squawking about that. Start putting together real plans. Spend your money, not ours. I spend enough on taxes. I don't know. You agree with that one, Frank? You want to pay more in taxes for an electric vehicle?
I pay too many taxes now. I don't want to pay any more.
And you don't even have a
heck?
car. Yeah. And you don't even have a
I
car.
mean,
That's crazy. What about you, John? What do you think about
Oh,
Norway's 80%, 16,000 buses in China? Come on, give me a break.
well,
What are we doing over here?
I wouldn't be too sure I'd trust the numbers coming out of China personally, but you know what? It is what it is. It's our infrastructure couldn't handle it. So they can brag about doing all this stuff all they want, but until they figure out, I mean, unless you want regular rolling brownouts across the United States and blackouts, I mean, that's
Which we're
where
probably
it's
gonna
going to
get
go. That's where it's
Yeah.
going to go if they don't figure out the energy infrastructure problem before they put all these cars on the road.
you know, it's funny you bring that up because California is the biggest part of the world that actually has the worst brownouts and blackouts, and that's where they're wanting to start all this stuff at.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's the example for all of us to see so that we know what we need to fix before we get there. You know, I'm not saying we're never
Good
going to get
point.
there. I mean,
No,
I'm not saying we're never going to get there. I'm saying that it's very possible that we get there, but let's not put the the cart before the horse. Let's make sure that
I
we
mean,
have
you
the
know,
infrastructure
there's
before we start mass producing cars and putting them on the road, and they can't handle.
Jackknife is in the house. He just put something up here. It says almost 90% of Norway's power is produced by hydropower stations. Nice. I didn't find that fact, but thank you for sharing that with me. Probably explains why they do what they do over there. I could see cars possibly being okay on the grid due to the fact that 90%, I could see the cars possibly being okay on the grid due to the fact that, and he continues, due to the fact that 50% of them are going to be charged probably off peak hours at night. Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. I mean, because not everybody drives the same schedule in terms of truckers anyway. Not everybody drives the same schedule. So you've got to figure out peak demands. And I didn't even get to that part of it. But by the
I
way,
still don't
these
think
first three,
it would work.
well, you don't?
No.
No. Yeah. By
I
the
don't
way,
think we
these
have the
first
infrastructure
three
for it.
questions, yeah. By the way, these first three questions I just covered were the pro side. If I were asking somebody, if they were for it, those are the things I would cover. I've got a couple of con side questions too. This I think is really interesting. And it's not directly anything that I think will make a huge difference, but given the limitations we have, all right, what realistic timetable do you think would be better for transitioning to zero emissions vehicles? Just like I opened up the video and I started saying 2040 was too soon. So if you feel the way you do, John, what do you think in terms of timetable would be more realistic? What do
I
you
think
think would give us and the government the time we need to get what they want done?
Well, two things. First of all, I don't think the technology is there yet, so you can't put a timetable on something you don't have. But you need to break it down. Okay, what do we need first? First, we need the infrastructure in place. So that's what we do first. Then we need to produce a car that is a car, a vehicle, a truck, whatever it is, that's capable of doing the job that's intended to do. Which,
Mm-hmm.
if you're doing local, they have that. But if you're doing long haul, they don't, or heavy haul, or anything else. So,
Right.
um, that's what I'm saying. Like they're just shooting right for the car without they got to take it in steps. So I don't think you can put a date on the 4 steps from now. Let's focus on the first step first.
Good point. Good point indeed. Yep.
I'd have to agree with John on that. I mean, and I don't think there should be a set deadline either because that's pushing it too hard. When you start pushing and pressuring, that's whenever things get screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask
Yep.
you a question. Let me pose the question back to you. What should the deadline be on flying cars? Because we're supposed to have those already and we don't. Come on. I mean, let's get it done.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been waiting on that for years, ever since I watched the cartoon The Jetsons.
Yeah, but you know what? When we were growing up, they said that by 2020 we wouldn't have any combustion. Well, they said we wouldn't have any engines. We'd all be flying. We all be, like the Jetsons. They said that. And here we've gone past 2020. You know,
Yeah.
all I see are a few prototypes being piddled about, but nothing real serious.
Well, at least they got the concept going, right?
I'm
Right?
still waiting for a true hoverboard.
There you go. Right? That would be cool.
Actually, there are those, but they're too dangerous, and that's why Mattel never launched them.
Only in
Mhm.
Oklahoma.
Because the semi trucks are going to
Yeah.
be charged throughout the day, all hours, and would draw huge amounts of power from the grid at extremely fast rates. Yeah. The next point he makes is a very good one, and it kind of goes with the next point in question I was going to ask. He says free market can make that decision. I would say they need about another 20 years of R&D. Easily, the same thing goes for. I guess he means
self-driving.
autonomy. Yeah, autonomy.
Yeah.
Good point, Jackknife. Yeah, I mean, because honestly, I think they're trying to put the cart before the horse. Really, I really do, and it's really sad because I mean, honestly, if people do things the right way, it actually is a promising industry, and it could actually do something, and they could be even more affordable if it's done right. But the problem is, they're rushing it through, and they're putting it in a way that just, to me, I think does it and us a disservice. Really.
I agree with G-Way's comment.
Well, I'm not looking at the comment board right now. What did he say? Start with a hybrid and see how it goes, but it will never work for heavy hauling in the future. I agree with that totally. I do.
I forgot to share this with you, boss man and John. I watched an actual video
Mm-hmm.
that this gentleman actually made a hydro powered semi truck, and I was amazed by how he done it. He also set up his pickups and cars and all that. Also, if I can stumble across it again, I will share it to you folks. It was actually interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting to know.
Because where the headache racks normally at on the back of the trucks.
Right.
That's where he's got that whole entire setup built in there for the hydropower.
Yeah. So it's kind of similar to the way the CNG trucks are.
Very similar, I suppose. You're correct.
Because the CNGs have a headache rack, and then behind it they got that big tank thing or whatever it is. I remember that. Yeah. So, yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't matter what they're hauling; they protect that tank. Ooh. Yeah.
I have to make a joke out of a comment in here, not because I'm dissing the guy or anything, but if you go up to the comment that TJ Bull in the Woods left, he said something about a John Day. I mean, every day is John Day, isn't
it?
Okay.
Okay. That must have been early on when he started. Yeah, I didn't see it.
No, it's just like 5 comments ago. 5 or 6 comments ago. He says here in Bonneville, the Dallas John Day, Navy. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna go that route. Then every day's the grumpy old trucker day.
There you go.
No one celebrates grumpiness. Just saying.
Hey,
You can't do much with TCM Day. It just doesn't have the same ring. I'm sorry. And there's too many boss mans out there, so I can't really claim the fame to that one. So, all right, last question on my list of questions, unless you guys can think of some. Economic impacts. What are some impacts on small trucking businesses? We know the large ones can handle almost anything, but the small guys. What are some of the impacts you see as coming up in the future if this timeline isn't changed at all? If we continue on the same path, what are we looking at, say, 5 years from now or 10 years from now in terms of the amount of carriers that's still, less than 100 trucks? Do you think everybody's going to just say, nope, can't handle it, no money? Or do you think I'm shooting that one too far? What do you think, Frank?
well, I'll be honest with you, these big mega carriers, like Swift and all them, they're going to wind up changing over because it's going to be a big tax write-off for them, whether they have to lease or actually purchase the trucks. But now these small guys, like the last company I worked for, and I don't see that happening right away, and it may not happen at all because, it was only like 130 trucks. So why would they want to switch over with 130 trucks to electricity? If they do, it's going to take time. It's not something that's going to be like, oh, got to do this, hurry up, get it done.
Mm-hmm. What say you, John?
Again, I'm just not big on the whole setting a timeline thing. I think,
Well, the question was economic impact. Do you see a lot of people not being able to financially handle this kind of thing and just folding shop?
Yeah. Sorry, I got sidetracked. I was trying to get my morning coffee. So yeah, the economic side of it. Well, if they keep pushing it and taxing us to push something that's never going to work economically, it's going to kill us worse than we already are. I think it's hard to predict where we're going to be in 10 years because with the market ebbs and flows, like right now, obviously we're in a low point, but it's going to swing back up. And when it does, then everything will be great again and it'll all be roses and Skittles and sunshine. But that's what happens. So it's going to be, it swings down, it swings back up, it swings down, it swings back up. And you're going to lose people along the way because not everybody's cut out for it for the ups and downs of trucking. So.
But
very true.
To add to that too, this is something I'll give you a little taste of it because you're doing all this research, boss man, and finding this out. You will find out more. So if you haven't already come across it, history repeats itself, as we know, in some form or another. Many, 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 many years ago, we already went through something similar to this, which was electrified trucks and cars. And I actually stumbled across that video as well here not long ago. It was back in the 30s or 40s. They actually made electrical cars and trucks, big trucks too. Well, of course, they weren't as big as they are nowadays, but they
were earlier than that. They're actually, some of the research I did for other stories were back in 20s. I think was when.
Okay,
early
you got me there.
Yep.
So it's supposed to say history repeats itself. Therefore, if history is going to repeat itself in some manner or form, we need to start learning how to improve it better, to make it better, instead of just allowing it to lag along.
Typically, you learn from history.
Generally,
but it seems like the current administration is not learning a thing.
Nope.
They're not. They're replete with stupidity. That's what I like to say. They're not taking history lessons seriously. I'm going to look at a couple more comments, and then we're probably going to go into my closing statement here. Investors, including government politicians that are laundering your taxpayer dollars through these companies, want their return on criminal investment as fast as they can. That's interesting. That's an interesting way to put it. This legislation will be put forward that will cripple smaller fleets and owner-operators, and the megas that can absorb some of this will push it through lobbying groups, as they always do. Yes, sir. Good point indeed. to essentially monopolize trucking and destroy their competition while the government pays for it, in other words. Exactly. They don't want to learn. They want to conquer. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Last thoughts to you, Frank. What are your thoughts?
Be honest with you,
electric?
with our government always getting their upper hand in things, they make more of a mess for us than they do helping us in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I wish our government would stop trying to be the big power over everything, because we, the people, and it states in our Constitution, we, the people, actually empower them. They are employed by us, Americans, and they need to understand that. So, quit trying to hurry things up, quit trying to push things on us, quit trying to make us do things that we don't want to do, and provide us options to allow us to be able to make our own decision.
Yeah. What about you, John? Any closing thoughts? Electric?
I
good,
would say
not bad.
Well, actually, my closing, I pretty much left my opinion. I can't get that to work right now. Let's try this one. My opinion, whatever. You get the point. So, my opinion, I've already laid it all out there. But what I am going to say, guys, is as you're driving down the highways and the byways, and you see these big semi-trucks going by, just remember, the truckers in them are people too, all right? Don't forget. We deserve to be treated as nice as the next person next to you. Come on now. Hook us up.
There you go. There you go. Amen to that. Look, guys, at the end of the day, push for zero trucks, zero emissions trucks. Noble as it sounds, it's riddled with pitfalls and challenges that the powers that be are conveniently overlooking. We're talking about infrastructure. We're talking about charging stations. We're talking about the electrical grid. All of it underpowered. Bureaucrats, they're pushing this green agenda without a real plan, and they're putting you and me in the path of catastrophe. These mandates threaten to sideline us, leaving us stranded in the middle of nowhere with no place to charge up. And that means bad for you and me. Till things change, we got to fight for everything we can. Stand up and demand a realistic timetable, practical solution, at the very least. Remember, guys, it's trucks that carry the load, but it's the drivers that make the difference. Check back with Driving with John. Become a subscriber. Check on his videos. Check on Grumpy Old Trucker and myself. Look for updated daily show starting soon. You'll be better for it. I'm Boss Man, reminding you, you deserve a fighting chance. We'll be here to make sure you get it. Till next time, keep it real, keep the faith, and by all means, keep it rolling.